good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes Goodman and Hurdle. Sean Keeler filling in for Bruce this morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Happy Monday to you. Thank you for having me.
If I have learned one thing this weekend, when I play team sports moving forward, I will never wear the number 0 again. And here's the reason why. Tyrese Haliburton wears the number 0. Dame Lillard wears the number 0. Jason Tatum wears the number 0. And all three of them tore their Achilles in the playoffs this year. The number 0 is out for me moving forward. How about you?
I'm the same. 0 is too close to the shape of my head anyway, so I tend to avoid things. Sort of like, I'm a new era hat collector among my few vices.
Right.
I have a bunch of minor league baseball hats. I will not, as a fat man, wear minor league baseball hats with food on them because I think it's sort of stressing the point of my life problems. But 0 is another one I try to avoid. It's my new 13. Let's put it that way.
Speaking of food, I want to tell you about a great place to go if you just love sports bars. And a sports bar that's really put together well because it is a sports bar put together by sports fans. Talking about the Sportsbook Bar and Grill, you can find them in the DTC and Highlands Ranch. The menu's outstanding. I've said many times, if you really like the food at a place, you want to order out, even if you can't make it there. I order out from Sportsbook all the time, because I love their Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. Cheese curds are great. The burgers are amazing. So are the wings. But if you do go down there and sit there and have a cocktail that's usually on special, specifically during happy hour, Fireball, by the way, just in case you like it, is on special during happy hour there. Just a thought. They have all the games. Now, granted, they have all the major teams, but they are a big European soccer bar, a big rugby bar, a big UFC bar. Nobody does it better than the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and coming soon to Parker. Time now for The Lead.
The Lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Let's just get this out of the way before a lot of people start talking about this today. Should we take anything away from Oklahoma City because Haliburton went down in the first half?
No, and I think those 68 wins are pretty much the counter argument why that was the best team in the league all year. They proved it. They were wire to wire, and you don't have to love them. You certainly don't hear, but you have to respect. It's the Anchorman line. We don't like them, but we respect them.
Right.
I think if you look at this Thunder team, and as we talked about with the Celtics going forward, now they have a new challenge, and that is trying to repeat. And we wish them well because the system, as we've talked about, is not designed for them to do that.
Well, the way they are currently set up with Sam Presti, not only do they have contracts under control, but a huge stash of draft picks as well. And that's where they are set up better than most teams, because a lot of teams, like the Kevin Durant trade, which we will get into, a lot of draft picks changed hands. Now, granted, in this case, they were second-round draft picks. But once you start losing your draft capital, you can't trade for guys, and Oklahoma City has that in spades as well.
Which the Nuggets and the Celtics do not, relatively speaking. And that is a major difference and a key point because, as we've talked about, when you lose that flexibility to not just improve and cheapify or lessen the cost of your bench, not having draft picks reduces your ability to erase mistakes in free agency, one of whom we're going to talk about, I know.
It's going to sound like a silly question. Listen, I'm not a hater. Just because a team beats my team, I don't hate them. I'm just wired that way. But, and this is a serious question when I ask it, are you glad Oklahoma City won because now they are the hunted, and anytime a team plays them next year, they will look at them as their championship game? Or would you rather them lost because you're not an OKC fan, but now they still have that motivation even more to win their first?
I think I would side with the former because this title felt inevitable.
Yeah.
We talked about it last year, and that they were too young, they weren't ready, they couldn't get over the hump. Well, like the Nuggets, say 3-4 years ago, they were knocking on the door, they got over the hump. And again, the question will be, is this a flash or a dynasty? And to the point we just talked about, they're built a lot. They have a lot more safeguards in place to stay on the track than either of the last two champions before them did. And they are going to get tested, if not next year in that regard, certainly in the next 2-3 years down the road, because the NBA likes new champions every year. And they've put that into the wiring. And now your challenge for Sam Presti, who's risen to a lot of them, is to beat the system in a system that loves you once but won't love you more than that.
It's not beatable. It's not a beatable system, because eventually in about 3 years, and that's a long time away, eventually that first apron is going to be so bloated by then they might have to go into the second apron. But they have their core, and it's a really, really good core. But eventually you're going to wind up losing that draft capital. They have a huge head start, but eventually you're going to lose that draft capital. Guys are going to be too expensive, and you're going to be in the same situation. I don't know if it honestly is a beatable system. Bruce and I talked about this quite a bit, and I never got your thoughts on this. When the Nuggets lost to Oklahoma City, you could have looked at it a number of ways. Well, the Nuggets could have won that series. What if, and we'll play the what if game, what if Michael Porter Jr. was healthy throughout the entire playoffs? If he was healthy throughout the entire playoffs, I certainly give the Nuggets a much better chance of winning. He never, ever should have played with that shoulder, meaning it's not that he shouldn't have played. He tried to play, just like Haliburton tried to play.
Right.
The point is, if this was a regular season injury, he would have been out 4 to 6 weeks. Easy. Throw in the drop foot and then the chronic bad back. But my point is, the argument is, hey, the Nuggets don't have much of a bench, but that not only did they push Oklahoma City to 7 games, they had the lead in the fourth quarter more than a few times. I never thought of this until I knew I was going to bring this up to you. Can you also argue it the other way? If it wasn't for 2 miracle shots by Aaron Gordon, this is a different series too, and it sure as hell doesn't go 7 games?
Yeah, I'm in the latter camp. I'm glad you brought this up, because I wrote about this in the Denver Post column, I think 2 Mondays ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, or right at the start of the finals when the Pacers hit that miracle shot in game 1 and everybody went, oh, it's going to be like the Nuggets series, which it turns out it kind of was.
7 games.
Yeah, but that the Nuggets had to be careful. Having listened to Josh talk about it, the impression was, to your former point, was we were right there. If we were healthy, we would have knocked them out.
Right.
Maybe. I think that's a dangerous assumption. I still think it is, even though the Thunder are now crowned, have been Dennis Green crowned them, so to speak. I think you have to be careful not to make assumptions about this playoff, because yes, all those things are true. And I think both of these sides of the coin you mentioned, both are valid arguments, but I lean to the latter. And if that was a series that you played 9 more times, I don't think it goes 7 or goes the Nuggets' way. It might go the Nuggets' way 1 of those 10, and I think it goes the 7 that you got, another 1 or 2 of them, and in 7, the Thunder win in 6, whether you're healthy or not.
All right, let's switch it up to the Nuggets in the news yesterday. Not surprisingly, Dario Saric opting into his contract, player option, $5.4 million. Doesn't mean that he's going to take it. Things can happen. He could be traded. He could be bought out. He could obviously play on that. But anyways, opted in to his player option. Whether he takes it or not, whether other things happen, is still down the road. With Saric opting in, Nuggets going to free agency. They have 3 open roster spots, $10.6 million in space below the second apron, which is a huge thing. Do you think the Nuggets try and keep him? You think they try and trade him or buy him out at the largest possible number to decrease that cap space?
I think they go with the second option first and then the third. And I think their first hope is to trade him, and the second option will be to buy him out, because whether he was a Calvin idea or a Malone idea, neither of those guys are here. And neither of those guys played you and had an investment in you. I think
But who's going to want Dario Saric at $0.4 million, more or less $5.4 million?
Right. And so
besides the European team.
I think the buyout is the most likely scenario given that. And either way, I'd be most surprised to see them try to work a future here. Not that you couldn't, and not that you don't need it because you do. I just don't see it. I think a buyout or a trade is most likely. And that's where we're going.
And just in case people don't know out there, this is the way the buyout works. It's $5.4 million. Let's say the Rockies say to Saric, we'll give you a $3 million buyout. The final 2.4 is what they eat on their cap. So if they find a way to buy him out for all of it, now that cap jumps to what, 16? Close to 16? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. Yep.
So
if you're at 10, yeah.
So you know what? If you are really looking to rebuild this roster for Jokic, just eat the full 5.4. You don't want to. Don't trade it. Don't trade back for any assets that are going to be garbage for you. Just free up that money, and maybe you can find somebody. This really is a great situation for them if indeed they could just say, okay, we're going to eat all of it, right? Or am I wrong?
No, you're right. And that gets back to what we were talking about in the prior topic, and that is when you don't have the draft pick capital or coverage or whatever you want to call it,
right?
Cushion to then exchange with, you would package that with him, ideally, if you wanted to move him along, to erase a mistake because he was a mistake. They don't have it, and therefore the buyout's probably there's no great option, but it's probably the least bad with where this goes. But you just don't have the capital and the flexibility to play with on a trade side as much as you would with more of those picks, and that's the downside of building this top heavy roster that you have.
With Saric opting in, this is what one fan wrote on X, and he's probably not alone with how he feels. He said Saric has no shame and zero competitive spirit, considering he played less than 100 minutes on a playoff team, and the fans hate him because of it. Which point do you side with the most? This fan that he's pissed at Saric, who, dude, suck it up. You weren't very good. You didn't earn your money. Just walk away, because honestly, you're showing no pride of wanting to play in the NBA again. That's the big thing. You just don't want to play anymore because you're probably not going to play with the Nuggets. Or do you side towards Saric? It's not his fault he was offered that money. It's not his fault he was offered a opt-in, opt-out clause. Why should you blame the player? The Nuggets offered it, and he took it.
Yeah, I think the fan's right, but if you want to pick a side, I will probably take Saric's in that he didn't make the Nuggets give him that contract. They handed him it, and he signed it. And
same thing with MPJ.
Yeah, right.
You could be upset.
Turn that down. You'd be like, no, I can't take that. There's no way I'll be that good. No, someone offers you the X amount of million, you're going to take it. It was the Nuggets lottery ticket, and it bombed. You don't, as a player and as an employee, turn down dumb money just because it's dumb money. Right. You're not the one making that error. And I thought about an anecdote that I won't get into today, but in another life and 30 pounds ago, I covered the Bengals, as you know, probably by the time you were in Chicago. And it was a different deal then. It's still Mike Brown. But let's just say that there was a player once after one of many bad Bengal Mondays, who was an Ohio State player who will remain nameless, who was asked after his locker room, in the locker room with his check was in the stall, by a very nice beat writer who I don't believe is there. Do you feel like you earned that? The 4-letter words that came out of this player's mouth when he heard that, it was even on podcasts.
Can I take one guess as to who that player was?
Please do.
Would you tell me if I'm right?
Okay.
No, K is not an answer.
No, yes I might, but go ahead.
Dan Wilkinson.
No, it's great. It's a great name, but it was not.
Okay. Just checking. So
it was a classic Bengals story, but the point is the player's like, I'm not going to take this back for what I do. And they don't, but the fan's right. I mean, he's absolutely right in spirit, he or she.
Okay. So with that, if they say things come in threes, they did for the Nuggets yesterday. Oklahoma City wins the title. Saric opts in, and Kevin Durant is now a member of the Houston Rockets. Oh, by the way, the same Houston Rockets team that was the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. A Rockets team that desperately needed a great scorer, great shooter, and at his age, still at 37, Kevin Durant is still a top 3, top 4 scorer in the NBA. The Thunder are trouble enough, but now you have a young, great defensive team that has just enough offensive firepower without Durant, and now they have a bazooka in their arsenal.
Yeah, the West never sleeps. What's the Neil Young album? Rust never sleeps. The West never sleeps. And it feels like a lot of those power pieces just keep shifting around, other than Phoenix being a mess. And the Ishbias being a whole another topic. It's a heck of a deal for Houston. It's a head scratcher for the Suns. And your road doesn't get any easier or any simpler, but we knew that it wouldn't be. And this is just one of a couple dominoes that are going to fall around this, because to the point we talked about with the Thunder, this is a league that if you aren't shooting for something immediately and shooting for the king, who are you shooting for? Because the system's going to come from them eventually, and you want to try to speed that up.
And, oh, by the way, just for fun, Giannis is still on the market. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if he winds up in San Antonio?
I can imagine it. They've got the cap room, right?
I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a team like Miami, could Miami have offered more? Probably. Maybe they want Giannis instead. Maybe Giannis wanted to see where Durant would end up first.
Yeah.
Or other teams would want to see, okay, what is the market for this? Because really the Phoenix Suns got pennies on the dollar compared to what they spent for Durant. Okay, so with that all buttoned up, ESPN Shams Charania reported the Nuggets were a dark horse candidate for Durant. So if this is true, does this signal to you that the Nuggets will be as aggressive as they possibly can be, despite their limitations? When you read this, did you say, wow, that's kind of interesting? Now, we don't know if it's Josh or whoever, Tenzer, winds up making a phone call to the Suns and says, what's it going to cost? This much? Okay, thanks, bye. Is that a negotiation or is that a quick conversation? What does interested truly mean? But if indeed there was interest and there was a due diligence call, which you should make anyway, but if there was some legitimate interest, does that make you think, okay, Josh heard Nikola loud and clear. We better make some serious improvements?
Oh, well, here's what I'll give Josh the benefit of the doubt. I think he's absolutely true to his word and wanting to be a caretaker of the peak of Joker's legacy. I think that's a genuine challenge and a genuine cause on his part. Where I'm a little skeptical is thinking it goes beyond the inquiry phase and interest. I don't know Shams. I knew Woj a little. I respect the insider guys for what they do, but I also know from decades of this that agents make calls for a reason, and agents plant things for a reason, and agents plant things with certain people.
Well, hold on. I'm with you. I'm as cynical as you are, believe me. But what is the benefit, honestly, for an agent leaking the Nuggets of all teams? What's the motive?
Well, an agent wants competition for one, because
there were about 5 or 6 teams. He didn't have to throw in a 7.
They didn't have to create.
That's my point.
Yeah, and that's fine. But but planting can also be true. And to your point, the definition of interest can also be true. Do the Nuggets really want Kevin Durant? Or do they want, as one baseball owner put it, in front office put it once, a seat at the table? We just want a seat at the table to be with one of these guys and one of these big names. I think they know they have to, but again, until they're serious about moving, say, an MPJ or a Jamal and eating money on those investments, and again, eating money on those investments, you'd have to probably figure out a way to balance those salaries that you're paying. I'm not sure how serious, or rather really committed they are to making a splash, because everyone, including everyone in the NBA, everybody on X, everybody everywhere knows what they would have to do with their limited cap room to try to really affect this roster, unless they're bargain shopping, which ultimately we all think is what they're going to have to do anyway, that they're going to have to keep finding another Russ after Russ after Russ and hoping one of those hits.
Well, congratulations to the Denver Post. Everyone has been trying to get an interview with Dick Monfort. Patrick Saunders did, of the Denver Post. He also talked to Charlie as well. Some enlightening comments coming from both Dick and Charlie about the future of this franchise. What will it look like next year? We might have some clues to what those answers might be, and that is next.
Spice up your next night out at Nola Jane and Lodo. Authentic Cajun cuisine like andouille sausage gumbo with dirty rice, crawfish etouffee, as well as 6 different po' boys like soft-shell crab and shrimp. Come in before or after a game at Ball Arena. Host a party or party on their rooftop deck overlooking Market Street during happy hour from 11 a.m. to 5. Plus, Nola Jane caters, delivers, and the kitchen is open late night. Make Nola Jane your new favorite spot to eat, drink, and party like it's Mardi Gras.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or over $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. That's right, your choice, cruisers or $15,000 in cash. Get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Hurdle. Sean Keeler from the Denver Post filling in this morning. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Nola Jane in the heart of Lodo. No one does Cajun cuisine better than Nola Jane. Go see why their award-winning menu is the best in town.
That's a good on Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post getting an interview with Dick and Charlie Monfort, although the majority of the story did focus on Charlie's recovery from alcohol and how he's gotten back into the organization. Charlie did say this about the current state of the Rockies. I think we need a new set of eyeballs. We need to give someone the opportunity who knows baseball and has lived and breathed baseball and sometimes died with baseball a chance. Someone who knows everything that all the good teams that we face know from the grassroots up. Dick responded to Charlie's comment by saying this. That's not only Charlie's opinion, it's the public's opinion as well, and I get it. There is a criticism which is fair that we are very loyal, insular, and we promote from within. What has gone on over the last few years is not representative of what we want. I think there are a lot of reasons for that, but it's probably time to have somebody who has a fresh opinion, a fresh set of eyes. I'm not opposed to bringing in people from the outside. Okay, we've heard this before. Is this lip service, or do you really think something's going to happen this time around?
I think something's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to be something seismic, and it needs to be. I'd be surprised if it was something seismic. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you will. Last time they hired a GM outside the org was O'Dowd in '99, correct?
Yeah.
So we're going on 26 years without someone in the family running this. And O'Dowd had come from Cleveland off a gap year, if I recall. I got to see it. It's sort of like trading MPJ. I've heard this stuff, back to our last segment, until I see actions, not words. I think acknowledging it in print. And first of all, New Zealand hat tip to Patrick Saunders, my teammate, super guy, super plugged in. Happy to see that he got both Monforts for this. I got to see it before I believe it, though. And I'm happy Charlie's doing better. I know Charlie. I know you know the family well. And that's great. But I think this is a crisis point, a potential inflection point that I'm not convinced. I know they've made big moves to crisis points before, and I'm hoping you would with this too, but I'll believe it when I see it.
I told you this last week. The only thing that truly gives me hope is that Walker Monfort takes over, and the son does have fresh ideas from what I understand. He's a smart kid. He's a hardworking kid. Sterling, his brother, is more in the personnel department. But Walker's the guy who would probably wind up taking over. But if indeed Dick is telling the truth and he believes there is a new set of eyes, with all due respect to Walker, it is not him. Now, granted, Walker could be the team president and then hire a new GM and then go outside and then maybe do sweeping changes to the scouting department and the analytics department. But I suppose we will wait and see. With that, I want to get back to part of Monfort's quote, which made me laugh out loud when I saw news coming out yesterday from Bob Nightingale. So I'll repeat part of Dick's quote. There is a criticism, which is fair, that we are very loyal, insular, and that we promote from within. With that, longtime MLB reporter Bob Nightingale, who is as reliable as it gets when it comes to his reporting, is reporting that Bud Black is reportedly a strong candidate to return to the Rockies as the director of pitching because Steve Foster is leaving to become a pitching coach at Texas Tech. With that, and I'm going to add on to it, is it just me, Sean, or is it simply amazing that Monfort knew this, knew that they were considering Bud Black, yet talks about, we're incestuous. We only hire from within. And then to make it even more ironic and more maddening, Clint Hurdle, great guy, love Clint. Yeah. He's back with the organization as well. So much for fresh ideas.
We know we have a problem of being insular and incestuous. So, by the way, and yes, I'm planning on being insular and incestuous again. Here's the and this is going to sound so ageist, and I'm not a young man, so it's not meant in an ageist sense. There are a couple. The ultimate bottom line problem to me, we have talked about with the Rockies, is Dick being stubborn, and Dick being 71. And here's why I say that. Not my parents are alive, bless them. This is not about senior citizens or any kind of rant that way, but there comes right. I'm getting there. There comes an age, and I think you'd agree with this, where especially if you are a made man enough, where you're not interested in making friends anymore. You have enough friends. You're going to, and I'm saying ideas. I'm not saying not being open. I'm just saying friends and networking, especially if you are if you're a near billionaire 71-year-old. What is your interest in this? None. You've made it. You're here. No. And I think that ultimately, and I think it circles back to your point about the sons about Walker and Sterling is that when they take over, they are going to be casting their legacy. And I think inherently your interests are to find new people and to find new ideas to set what your ultimate narrative is going to be. Dick's is set. There's just no moving it. And that's the stubborn, that's the age, that's being small town rich. And that's fine. Again, hats off to him. You won the game of life. Good. But this is different. And baseball is different. And baseball doesn't care about your real estate. I mean, they do. Obviously, look at the Tampa ownership situation. They want you to have those ducks in a row, but they don't care competitively. And I think nothing in that story and nothing from what that Patrick wrote, nothing from what Bob Nightingale, who has very good sources as well, and is really tied in with a lot of owners, not just Dick and the Monforts in this case. I'm with you. I laughed and I shook my head and went, the more things change, the more it stays the same.
So let's say Black does come back. It's actually a good fit considering he's well respected, well liked by the guys in the clubhouse. His ego is minimal. So kind of like Vance Joseph coming back as the defensive coordinator, pretty smooth, more than pretty smooth. As a matter of fact, Vance Joseph's career has, skyrocketed in light years because of what he has done with this defense. But with that, is it fair to say if Black comes back, it's going to be not even a blip with him back in the clubhouse? There's not going to be any controversy. He's not going to be gunning after Schaefer's job. And truthfully, he was a pretty good pitcher and a pretty good pitching coach before he became a manager.
Yeah, really good pitching coach. I may have talked about this with you earlier in the year or in other iterations of our program, that Bud was going to have another chapter and Bud was going to get another pitching job. Like that, he was in. Yeah, the Vance Joseph is a great comp, that he was going to be back in the coordinator phase of his career, and that somebody, I think the Orioles were linked with him at one point, which would have been very smart for them. Bud's a good pitching mind. Bud is a proven ring-winning in Anaheim pitching mind, and so why not plug into that here? It hurts your change narrative, but it's not the dumbest baseball decision they could make in their defense.
Well, I guess my question is, if they bring back Bud, what is Jim Tracy and what is Walt Weiss doing these days?
That's great.
Bring back the four horsemen. You could bring back the last four managers.
It could be the old Cubs College of Coaches. The Rockies can have the College of Ex-Managers. Just rotate them in and out. I think that's a great idea. Run with that. I think that should be our summer goal. Bring them all back.
All right. Dick also talked about something that fans are going to be upset with. But I'll be honest, I agree with wholeheartedly. There are very few things I agree with when it comes to things that come out of Dick Monfort's mouth. But I do this. I'll be curious to know what you think. He said about playing at altitude. He said it's a different animal. We have this dynamic of playing somewhere where nobody else plays. It's easier for an outsider to say, well, I would have done this, should have done this. This is a tough place to play. It has little intricacies that other places don't. I believe everything that Dick said. But with that, I think Dick's problem is he thinks that he and the people in that organization who have been there are the only ones that can figure it out. And clearly, they have not figured it out at all. So with that, do you agree with Dick's assessment alone? Not what he's done to handle it, but his assessment alone, or is that an excuse?
I think it's a true statement that is also an excuse. And to your point that, there's a code, it's different, but I think the fact that they treat it like the Colonel's secret herbs and spices, that it's some family recipe that nobody else can get into, just underlines the problem.
But that's not what I mean. We know that. And I agree with what you're saying, Sean, that he might believe that they're the only ones that can figure it out. The truth is, no one in the history of Major League Baseball has been able to figure this out because it's never happened. This is not a new problem. This has been a problem since 1993. It became a different type of problem when they put in the humidor in 2002. but it still hasn't been figured out. I consider Dan O'Dowd a friend of mine, and he has told me, and I don't think he would mind me saying this because I don't think I'm really breaking his confidence when I do. He said to me, Eric, I didn't realize how hard it was to build a team at altitude until after I left. I was like, wow, that was a really big sub sandwich to eat. And he tried it a lot of different ways, and other GMs have tried it different ways, but you really have to build two different teams. And by building two different teams, you have to pick one course of action. What type of team do you want to be that's going to be the most successful at home and on the road? Because it's two different baseball games, playing at Coors and playing outside of Coors.
And he's dead on.
The reason, Sean, that's why you need fresh ideas from someone who maybe hasn't done this before. Maybe they have a fresh idea, because the piggyback pitching rotation, I don't know if you were here for that. That sure as hell didn't work.
No. And there have been so many different attempts at how do you crack this code? How do you build a roster that's, again, playing in one climate and then has to do it 50% of the time somewhere else? It is one of baseball's great Sphinx riddles, this place, and how you make that work. But to bring this full circle to the Monfort family statements and the story in the Denver Post Sunday, you can't say you're going to consider fresh eyes and talk about fresh eyes and then also keep dismissing the idea that an outsider can figure this out, that someone can't do this in, say, a year. It still feels to me like he's protecting his son's roles and protecting the family investment, and particularly where Sterling is involved in personnel. And I'd love for him to prove me wrong, and I'd love for them to make a hire that proves me wrong. But until they do, I still think that's the long-term course, whether Sterling is GM or not. That's
you mean Walker is? You mean Walker?
No, Walker's on the business side. Sterling's on the scouting side right now, as we talked about.
No, they already said in article.
They've said it, but they haven't acted it. Like, yeah. I think that they really want to make sure, and that's fine. It's a family business. You pass it to the family, but you can't talk about wanting to be ashamed of your insular nature and ashamed of being incestuous, and then back to the Bud Black story, and then just keep doing what you've always done. It's a vicious circle that I don't think ever gets changed under Dick's leadership. Period. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that he proves me wrong.
The group that he has around him is a very comfortable pair of jeans. He enjoys wearing those jeans every day because there's not going to be confrontation. There's not going to be pushback, so on and so forth. But if the Rockies want to upgrade and make their team better, specifically in the National League West, and I'm not talking about just spending money. You got to draft and develop too. That's how this team is going to be built, like the A's have been built and Tampa has been built. And so on and so forth.
Milwaukee, yep.
But then again, I think there's something fair to be said. It's difficult to build this team. That is not an excuse.
No.
We don't have time to go into all the idiosyncrasies on why this is a more difficult team to build than anybody else. It just is. Maybe we'll talk about it at length. Maybe, Sean, you want to write another column about it, because there have been plenty of columns written about it. But the thing with the Monfort situation is, you're right. They're not going to wind up selling this team. And I don't think Dick really knows who to turn to. Yes, he's made more connections now that he's more involved in the CBA side of things. But getting back to the old comfortable pair of jeans, he can wear those comfortable pair of jeans around the office all he wants to, because it makes them feel good. But to be a better team, they have to buy a pair of designer jeans that are going to look really good, not only in the National League West, but around baseball, and for them to have a chance to at least win the division or even make the playoffs. God forbid they make the playoffs. Because if I remember correctly, it was Dick who said our goal is to make the playoffs 2 out of every 5 years. But I digress. But here's the problem, Sean, that you will appreciate, that is giving me a long-winded way to get to this point. That old comfortable pair of jeans is so ripped and so torn and so tattered. Yes, Dick wears them around the office, but in a million frickin' years, he would never wear them out of the house because they're held together by strings. It's not a pair of jeans that you can even wear anymore. 3 straight 100 lost seasons. So that comfortable pair of jeans is nothing more than a spool of yarn.
Dick needs a new wardrobe in a baseball analogous sense to your point.
Right. Yeah.
His jeans have holes in the crotch, as my wife points out. You can't wear those anymore, but he does. And to my point earlier, I think he needs new voices, and that might mean some new friends or people he would at least respect. And I don't see those guys knocking down the door. And again, I hope I'm wrong.
I don't think people in baseball respect Dick Monfort. I think owners do in one area.
The owners do. Yeah, the owners do.
No. Well, hold on. The owners do because they're like, dude, how do you make so much money and your team sucks?
Right.
That's the respect.
Give me the coat. Give me that coat. They want they think he's the Mike Trout Ohtani of owners. They go, I want to be, it's the old, I get back to bitter White Sox fan Jerry Reinsdorf allegedly telling the Marlins owner, finish second every year. And you'll keep them all. And maybe you've heard of that quote that he gave. David Sampson alleged that Reinsdorf told him that once years ago, and that's never really. They got very sensitive about that because it was scraping the truth. I don't know, man. I think Dick knows what he knows, and that goes back to being 71 and small town rich, and that dog doesn't want new tricks, because anybody who's tried to rock the boat here, at least in the last 4 years that I've seen it, they end up getting thrown off the boat, or they jump. They jump back into the sea, and you can't keep losing people that have new ideas like that, because then ultimately that's you.
Nobody who's any good in baseball will join a team run by Dick Monfort because there's that invariable roadblock that's on fire that you can't get through, which is Dick. So if you're good at what you do, you're not taking the Rockies job, even though it might be one of 30. There has to be major changes for anybody who has any legitimacy in this business, anybody who has any pride in this business, to take this job, because you are walking into a hornet's. It's the Hotel California.
I like that. Check out anytime you like, but you could never leave. This should be a stepping stone GM job, right? I mean, it should be a good, challenging, to Dan O'Dowd's point, really hard. It should be a stepping stone GM job, and it's become like Cleveland Browns quarterback bad. Where's Jeff Bridich? Dan's on TV and does a good job with that, to his credit, but it seems to be the end of the road, and it shouldn't be that. It's such. And it's not a sleeping giant, but it's at least a sleeping middleweight, and nobody can wake it up, and that's too bad.
I'll end with this, and people could disagree with me if they would like to. If all four teams are going well, Nuggets, Avalanche, Broncos, Rockies, the Rockies are, to me, a solid number 2 in this market. They are ahead of the Nuggets. They're ahead of the Avalanche. They're a solid number 2. From the casual fans that go to the game to baseball fans. And listen, this is not a great baseball town, but they want to be baseball fans of a great team. Just look at 2007. I covered that team. The excitement in the city. I'll put it to you this way. Of all the stories I've ever covered, the 2 biggest stories I've ever covered in Denver over 20 years was 07 and the saga of Tim Tebow. And yes, I am putting the 07 Rockies ahead of the Denver Broncos winning 2 Super Bowls. Think about that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that there was probably more excitement the day the Broncos found out they were getting Peyton Manning than there was actually winning a Super Bowl. It's not a knock. It's just the feeling that I get. How would you like to close? Because this is your last show with me after doing 3. How would you like to finish up?
No, just saying thanks. And I'm with you. I got here right after October, like literally right after that ended, or a little before Halloween of 2018. And as a baseball fan / lifetime baseball nerd, I have sat at Coors Field many a night and wondered, what would this, as good as this is, or as bad as the product is, what would this look like if this team were good, or were like Cleveland, like Milwaukee, didn't need a big budget, but just knew how to turn that over. And it kind of broke my heart. It's broken my heart a lot of times because so many things there, to your point, are dead on. So much of the infrastructure and in terms of the fan interest and the desire and the park itself and the neighborhood and all these great intrinsic things are there. And having been in Chicago in the 90s and the aughts as you were, it takes on such early Cubs pre-Ricketts Cubs vibes, Tribune Cubs vibes.
Yeah.
That's great, but also makes me sad. Even as a neutral, makes me sad.
All right. You are a very talented and creative writer, but I'm going to let you steal something if you would like it. Moving forward, you have my permission. I didn't copyright it. I've said this once before. I'll repeat it to you. The Colorado Rockies are Casa Bonita. Could you imagine what Casa Bonita would be like if they had really good food? Could you imagine what the Rockies would be like if they actually won games? That's going to do it for us, Sean. Great doing the shows with you the last 3 days. Starting tomorrow, next 3 days, it'll be me and Troy Rank. Make it the best possible day you can.